As I had instructed you guys to do in the Canvas PowerPoint recording video of this in 16.1, what I wanted you to do was to go to Print, and then when it opens up, go to All Presets. I think I said View All Formats or whatever, but it's View All Presets. Once you open that, down at the bottom you'll notice is the US business card. So that's what you want to open up. It's this one right here. I think I had my mouse over the wrong one. But before you do that, what you want to do is you want to change your inches to pica, or picas to inches rather, and you'll notice that it's now 3.5 wide by 2 inches high. You also want to change your margins to 0.25, and because they are all linked together with this thing here, when you change that, they all change together. You also want to change your bleed, as I said, to 0.125, sorry. And then you can create the card. It'll take a few seconds here to bring it up, but once it does, you will see a business card, but it'll be real close in and on the front. I'm going to pause this for a second until it does that. Okay, that took a few minutes for that to happen. InDesign was moving rather slowly. Okay, now that I've got it opened up and I've used my magnification tool and zoomed out, you can see that I have both the front and the back of a business card. Now, before we get into that, I want you to see a few things that I've created in advance of this, and I'm doing a little bit different version of the business card than the one that I did in the PowerPoint presentations. Hold on. First of all, doing a more whimsical card this time, I decided to do a takeoff on some notepad stuff that I had done years ago for a print production class for the Elgin Anarchist Collective. So I'm creating a business card for that venture, and I started off by taking this artwork and then bringing it into Photoshop and creating this front for a business card. I decided that I didn't like the way that the type transferred. The type itself is 2 separate layers. As you can see here, I can shut both of them off and you can still see what the card looked like. And then what I did was I saved a version of that sans the type like this, and then I brought that into Illustrator. So I'm going to open that up here next. Bring up the Illustrator file here, and what I did was I took the artwork, brought it in, and then did an image trace of it, and that gives us a lot better version, a vector version, to transfer to the front of our business card. The other thing that I also did was a real quick little piece of artwork for a Molotov cocktail, which I will show you how I'm going to use a little bit later on here. Okay, so those are the elements for the card. Now we're going to start putting them into the card itself in InDesign. Okay, back to InDesign now. I am going to take and use, opening up my layers here, I'm going to take that first layer and I'm going to name it Artwork, and that's where I'm going to place the artwork from Illustrator. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to File, Place, just like in Illustrator. I'm going to find the artwork, which I have labeled Artwork for the business card. This is the previous version, and I don't want to use that one. And it should come in here. I'll follow my cursor around. There it is. And then I can place it. Now you'll notice that when it first comes in, it's rather pixelated, and that is because of the fact that you need to do the view and display performance high quality display, and now you can see that it has brought it in pretty well. Anyway, so that's going to be the background artwork for the business card. I'm going to see if I can't do the Alt, Control, and Shift keys and bring this up just a little bit. Yeah, that was really slow. That took a few minutes for that to change over. But anyway, you can see now that bringing it in as a vector is a lot better than relying on the rather pixelated version that you would get if you just brought in the JPEG that I'd copied from before. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create yet another layer. I'm going to lock up my original artwork layer because I don't want to work on that anymore. And I'm going to call this one text. That's going to be the text layers that I'm going to add onto the front of the business card. Now, in my previous version in Photoshop, I used two different typefaces. The one up here, of course, is going to be in white. The one down below is going to be in black. This one up here is going to be called Cracked Johnny. And the one down in here is A.R. Christie. So I'm going to have two different typefaces on the front of the business card. So I'm going to change my business card, or I'm going to change my type rather, to a white type. So I'll click on this, of course, and white is 6Fs. And I'm going to open up a window or a container here for the type to go into. Since I did this before, it might default to the type that I had up. No, it's defaulting to Minion Pro. So anyway, I'm going to go down here, and yeah, Cracked Johnny was already up. I didn't have to go down into my display here in order to find it. So I'm going to call up Cracked Johnny. I think 12 point ended up being too big when I did this display before. I think 9 worked. So I'm going to have Elgin Anarchist Collective. And I think I determined that 9 was a little bit too small, and I could go, by highlighting this, I could go to 9.5. You can do increments of 0.5, 0.75. You can change the type around a little bit, and you'll notice now that it's fitting inside the type box, and it looks just fine. I thought before about adding a drop shadow behind this, but it would get lost at this end of the gradient anyway. Alright, so now we have that type box in, and I'm going to add another type box down at the bottom here for my little plug line that I'm going to put down there, and I'm going to change that type to black. Bring up my color picker, and of course it's 6 zeros. And that type was not Minion Pro, but it was lost the samples at the top. It went down into the type. What I want is A.R. Christie, so I could probably just type that in. A.R. Christie should come up here. There it is, right there. It's kind of a whimsical typeface. And the motto is, do one thing every day that scares you, which is the motto of the anarchists. So there we have the typeface at the bottom. And if you want to see it without all of the surrounding things, of course, you hit W. You'll see it in preview mode. If I click off of that type box, you'll see it just the way that it would print out. So that's fine. This is the way that the front of the business card will look. Now we're going to tackle the back. So I'm going to pause this for a minute so we can transfer down to the bottom. Alright, now I have zoomed out. I'm still in preview mode, so I will hit W. We'll go back into our regular mode. There we go. And I want to zoom in on the back of the card. Now on the back we're going to have a couple of things, and I'm going to handle them one layer at a time. First thing I'm going to do is lock up the text for the front and create a new layer for my stuff at the back. So this is going to be called name. And that's where I'm going to place my name, and putting it in at first, and I'm going to put it in with A.R. Christie. It's defaulting to Minion Pro, so I'm going to type my name in first in Minion Pro, and it's typing in white. Okay, change that type to black. I'm not sure why it was defaulting to white all the time, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, and I'm going to give myself the title of pitcher as though it was a baseball team, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. So I can take and I can change that now to A.R. Christie. There we go. That's the way that it's going to look. I'm going to leave that currently at its current size, and I'm just going to take and do edit copy, and then I'm going to close that layer and lock it and create another layer here for the address, remember. And then I'm simply going to do an edit paste in place and then move it down. And I'm going to take that really quickly and I'm going to change it to my current address. So I'm going to go down here real quick. I'm going to pause this and fill in the rest of the fields so you don't have to watch me do all. Okay, and now I have placed all of my type on the back. I have placed the web address down near the bottom inside of the surround for the bleed. I have my name here. I increased the size of the type on my name to 18 point and left the copy for both the address and the city, state, and zip code information left at 12 point. So as is the web page. And I have one more item that I'm going to bring in now, which will make the picture seem correct, and that is for the Molotov cocktail. And I'm just going to call that layer Molotov artwork. It needs an envelope of its own or a place for it to come in, and so I'm going to go to File and go and find that. So I'm going to do File Place, and I want the Illustrator version of it so it's not pixelated, and we're going to do Open, and it's going to come in. It'll be really big. It's right here, and I'm going to move it over so that we can begin to see it. You can see how huge it is. In order to make that smaller, I'm going to be holding down my Alt, my Control, and my Shift key to constrain that, drag it down, and keep moving it back and forth until you can see it. I think I've made a copy of it, and I don't need that. Hold on. Okay, it took me a couple of seconds to get that to the size that I wanted it to be. And of course, I can take and bring that in, cock it at an angle of its own, making it look a little rakish. It's got a white background behind it, so you'll notice that it can obscure the lettering of the title, unless, of course, I move that layer below my name layer, in which case then the copy will run over the top of it, like so. Okay, now an important thing about InDesign in the end is that you should store your InDesign file along with where all of the other elements that compose this are located too, and you don't want that, for that purpose, you don't want to lose the information. I just noticed that I've got type at the bottom that's running over too, and so that means I need to bring the web address above the artwork as well. There we go, so that it's running over that white portion of it right down there. As I was saying, you want to save your InDesign file to the same location where you're saving the front artwork for the card and this Molotov cocktail, and I'll explain that to you here in just a moment. So we're going to do File, Save As, and we're going to call this the Anarchist Business Card 2. I already saved the first version of it, so I'm going to save that as number 2. And it's going to be saved not to the desktop, but rather to the Elgin Anarchist Business Card folder. There it is there, and we will do Save. Now the reason for that is because when you go to open this file again some other time in the future, if you do not have that file saved with the artwork that goes with it, you will find that these little things, and I'm going to enlarge this so that you can see it, whenever there's a piece of artwork that's associated with this, you'll see that right there where that piece of artwork is a little chain link. And what that means is if you go to open this file and that piece of artwork isn't in that file, there will be a broken chain there, and InDesign will tell you that it can't produce this piece of artwork because the artwork isn't available to it. Same thing with the front. When you go in and take a look at that, oops, too far, sorry. When you go in and look at the front of the business card, right here, you will notice that there is a blue chain. That blue chain is indicating to you that this artwork that's associated with the front of the business card is an intrinsic part of the file. So if we go out of InDesign and we take a look at the file, we will note now, here we go, that the InDesign file is located inside there, as is all of the other artwork that is associated with this. This is what InDesign looks like unless you have the document closed up. Once you close that up, that will disappear, and what it does is it'll make sure that everything that's associated with this document stays with it. Okay, all that I have for right now. I hope this helps. See you again soon.